Welcome everyone to today's webinar, Financial Planning for 2021, How Next-Gen Data Analysis Can Help Hospitals Plan for the Future Amid Uncertainty. I am Laura Dearda with Becker's Hospital Review. We will begin today's webinar with a presentation. We will have time at the end of the hour for a question and answer session. You can submit any questions you have throughout the webinar by typing them into the Q&A box you see on your screen. We look forward to hearing your questions. Today's session is being recorded and will be available after the event. You can use the same link you used to log into today's webinar to access the recording. At this time, it is now my pleasure to start today's webinar by introducing our presenters. Todd Crossland is Head of Healthcare and Life Sciences at Snowflake. John Michael Smith is Healthcare and Life Sciences Practice Leader at Qlik. Brad Eckler is Field Director for Healthcare East at Qlik. And Jeff Dodson is Solution Architect at Qlik. At this time, I am pleased to turn the floor over to Todd to begin today's presentation.
All right. Thank you, Laura, and thank you to Becker's and Qlik for making this happen. I guess a good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you might be in the world. So definitely a pleasure to do this presentation today. And what I'll do is basically kind of set the table around Snowflake and what our platform does. And then I'll be handing it over to Qlik for them to do a quick presentation, but then dive into a demo. Everybody loves demos, so we'll jump into that. So again, thank you for this being all about financial planning and looking into next year. That's going to be kind of the focus and where I'll guide this presentation. I'll speak in some broad terms, but then specificity around financial planning. So we're just going to dive right into it. So quick history about Snowflake. Obviously a lot happening in the news last week around Snowflake if you follow financials, but basically we've been around for about 8 years, founded back in 2012 by some Oracle industry veterans, and then 3 or 4 years later became generally available as the data warehouse built for the cloud. And it's an important concept there that you'll understand here momentarily how we've changed from that. That is about the time that I became a customer. I was a very early adopter of Snowflake. I've been with the organization just over 2 years, but have been in the space for over 30 years. More recently, Salesforce has come on as a phenomenal partner. Obviously, a leader in the Gartner and Forrester quadrants and waves. Just passed over 3,000 customers, and really what you'll see here is kind of the evolution from a data warehouse tool, cloud native and what have you, to being this cloud data platform. So a few metrics down there at the bottom to notice, Snowflake is doing over 500 million jobs per day. What are those? Meaning queries and loading data and what have you. And to be clear, we are a public cloud only platform, and I'll show you some visuals on that. The other item of note is the NPS score. If everyone's familiar with the Net Promoter Score of a 71, industry average there is a 21. I look at this, having been a customer as well, is two concepts. Number one, it's simple, and number two, it just works. And so you'll kind of hear those concepts throughout the conversation here. So I separate the slide into two purposely, and what you look at on the left-hand side is, when you talk about requirements and what is the requirements of data today, right, is that you all know that the amount of data that you have to deal with is growing. The complexity of that data, right? The number of sources of that data. And it's not just the complexity of the data itself, but what you're being asked to do with it. And so the days of fee-for-service are waning, and then you have the days of performance-based and much more time-based and longitudinal data, and about getting all of a patient's data together in one spot. What does that mean? Well, we love our EHR partners, love them absolutely, but and some of them are customers of Snowflake, but just that data is going to get you for the requirements and things that you have to do. But today, really, it's about getting data from multiple sources, and so you'll hear about that. So you see on the left-hand side here, right, from an IT perspective, what does an IT team want, right? They want one place for all their data. It's got to be secure. We're HIPAA compliant. High trust certification is imminent. We do a BAA, right, SOC 2 Type 2 audit and all of that, and we've been doing that for 4 years, okay? It's got to be secure. It's got to be governed. We can't be maintaining things. The days of maintaining infrastructure, I'm sure you all are on your cloud journey. in some form or fashion. And so what IT wants is less maintenance, right? They want things delivered as a service. And so we are absolutely delivered as a service. And in the end, they want, and we all want, unlimited performance and scale. And that's what Snowflake provides, is the ability to scale up to what you need in any given day, hour, minute, and then scale back down to whatever your needs may be in that next minute. And then on the right-hand side, what do clinicians want? What do financial people want, right? They want all of those things. I'm not going to dive into all those. They're pretty straightforward. I will call out one. Concurrency is the ability with Snowflake to have multiple workloads. You can be loading data into Snowflake the same time that you're querying data. And so there's a lot. I won't dive into all the technicalities today, but just know that when it comes to, we're serious about unlimited performance and scale. It's whatever you need to do. And so when you're working with partners like Qlik, right, is that you can be rest assured that you can get all of your data in one spot, that Qlik can point to Snowflake and Snowflake can handle all of that data. Okay? And so we love partners like Qlik that have been in the healthcare and life sciences space for a long time and derive value, but we just like to think that we just make it bigger and better as the amount of data that we can give Qlik access to. So what does that look like from a visual perspective? And if you notice, on the left-hand side, it's about all these data sources I've been discussing, okay? And you'll see there that you'll see the typical, right, transactional databases and EHR and claims and labs and all that. But notice some other interesting items: genomic data, images, and IOMT data. So for Snowflake, we bring all of your data. So it can be, for those who are a little more technical, you think about structured data like OLTP, or semi-structured data like streaming data from medical devices, and unstructured data. And so what you have there is the ability to bring in all types of data. We've just now are in what we call private preview with unstructured data, and that's your images, audio files, video files, and what have you. So your CT scans, your DICOM images can now be brought into Snowflake. So when we say all of your data, we mean all of your data. And then across the top there, you'll see the different workloads now. So in the middle-ish there, you see the data warehouse, and that's where we were born. But now, and I won't spend all the time on all of these, but people are now engineering data. They're transforming data. Where people use us as their data lake. You'll hear those themes, but all of it in one governed area. Data science, massive collaboration with data science tools using Python connectors and R connectors. So for us, it's really about making that data wrangling much, much easier. So, and then on the right there, you see data applications. I was one that built a lot of applications on top of Snowflake, and that's what our EHR partners and others are doing. And so that's all about data applications. And last, data exchange. So while it's important that we are getting all these sources of data, and you're managing it as a customer of Snowflake, and you're getting all these data sources in, it's also massively important, and now via technology like Snowflake, is to get data from data partners without having to go and wrangle that data yourself. And that's part of what Qlik is going to talk through, and how you can easily pull in other data assets from partners and from clients using Snowflake's data sharing, data exchange capability. And then obviously on the right-hand side there, right, you see the data consumers for all across your organization, but focusing on from a financial perspective, right, is that how do you prepare, how do you take what has happened in the last, we all know the, 8-9 months of time and how it's impacted us all, and a massive, just have to say thank you to everyone that's been involved in what we've been going through with the pandemic. And so we recognize that the impact is tremendous, but how do we prepare financially for what's next? And I think that's a key there for doing that, is to be able to do that. So I apologize. I've got, there's a little bit, the slides flying around there a little bit. And so just know that, right, using tools like Qlik on top of Snowflake, you'll be able to in a much more agile and a much more comprehensive way, gain access to those data assets. So just really quickly, focusing on providers here, obviously, but Snowflake is being used all across healthcare and life sciences. You can kind of read there, the different use cases from a provider perspective, but just know that being used across the spectrum. And then next, here's lots of customers here. We do have customers in the provider space, from Centura Health to Prisma Health to ScriptStem San Diego. So there's a lot of providers are recognizing the value of Snowflake, and that's growing every day. So let's talk about, and then that collaboration aspect, is that today what you see people doing is the way you move data around. You hear a lot about copying. You hear a lot about people exporting to Excel. You're FTPing. Hopefully you're secure FTPing at least. You're hooking up to APIs. But in the end, what you're doing is once you copy data, it goes stale, right? It's delayed, error-prone, it's insecure, right, or unsecure. And so for Snowflake, let's think about the fact that we are public cloud. And I should have mentioned back a few slides ago, we sit across all three public clouds, AWS, Azure, and GCP. So think of us as this cloud data platform that sits across all three. So in your journey, you may be on AWS today, or maybe you start with Azure and you want to try something in Google. With Snowflake, it's very simple to replicate data into a Snowflake account in another cloud platform, which allows you to try out their capabilities, but you're still working with a single source of truth, okay? So back from a sharing perspective, right, this is kind of the way we've been doing it forever, but now with Snowflake, you have a different way. It's about sharing a live copy of the data, right? You're not having to go out and get copies. So we're not going to move it. We're going to have it be live. It's going to be secure and governed, okay? And for us, it may not be applicable to you, but it is globally available as in essence, a global data mesh. And I'll give you a real example of that around COVID-19 here in just a moment. So that's the direct share. If you look on the left-hand side here, is kind of where we began, and I'll dive more into that as to what the feature is of sharing, right? One Snowflake customer will share to another Snowflake customer. But over the last year or so, we've really evolved that to have a data marketplace and a data exchange. And think of that as a data marketplace. You go into a market and you buy an apple, right? Public marketplace, go in, it's an app store for data. And then in the middle is a data exchange. It's private, right? It's invitation only. But in the end, always remember it's all based on that secure data sharing capability, which allows you to share data across Snowflake accounts. So a specific example of that, and just to give you one example off of our public marketplace, is Star Schema. So that it's not for those of you techies out there, it's not the data model Star Schema. It's a company, Star Schema. And what they recognized back in March of this year was that, wow, Snowflake's data marketplace is a great platform in order to take data and put it into Snowflake and then put it on this marketplace and start sharing it live. And so now today, if you go out on our if you're in Snowflake and you go to our marketplace, you click on Star Schema, completely free, and you say get, you will have this data updated every hour, 27 data sources updated, every hour, every day. It's available across all three public clouds, 20 regions around the world. It's probably over 1,000 organizations now. You can search out there and find the Star Schema list of data sources, but just know that imagine for your organization and trying to plan for next year, after what's happened this year, and as you look at things ebb and flow, but having this live data source be constantly updated for you. You don't have to go out we love Johns Hopkins and the Kaiser Family Foundation and all those wonderful organizations that are putting this data out there, the IHME and others. And so imagine all that's in one spot. It's live. It's in a database. It's not sitting in files, right? And once you join it, you're off and running. So, what does that look like? So here, just really quick, you can see, the Star Schema has an account in Snowflake, and then they create a share, right, which you'll see there on the orange part on the Star Schema account. And then let's say that you're a Snowflake customer in the bottom right-hand corner. You have your data in blue. The shared data is in orange. And the power of this is in that joined query, right? You have some of your data, which is joined with some of Star Schema's data, and now you're driving insights, which will help you prepare for what that will look like in the year and years to come and live. Just really quick, I'll mention the reader account. You can share with people that don't have a Snowflake account yet. So that's seen as a very powerful feature as well, which you can hook up your BI tools just like Qlik to it. And again, down there on that join query, you hook up Qlik and you're off and running with what you've done prior. So just what does that marketplace look like out there? There's an example there. I highlighted PlaceIQ. I talked about star schema as a great data asset. PlaceIQ is about reemergence data. Where are people moving to? It's about mobility data, and where do you see all of that? So, so what you'll see there is again, you can click on the PlaceIQ data, and you can see, and you can again join that with star schema data, join it with your data, and then be able to make great insights about what the future of that looks like. And lastly, this is kind of a mock-up of what a private exchange could look like. And basically, again, for representation purposes only, all these are customers of Snowflake here. But imagine, right, that public marketplace is great. It's got star schema data, it's got weather data, it's got S&P Global Intelligence data on it. But if you want something, and this has become popular in the healthcare and life sciences space, is that imagine here, right, McKesson is hosting a private data exchange. They're putting their data assets on there. But this is becoming more and more popular for exchanging data privately throughout all of healthcare and life sciences. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Brad with Qlik. Let me go one more slide. And there you go, Brad.
Thank you, Todd. Much appreciated. And Laura and Beckers, thank you. Good day and good evening to all the folks that have joined us on the phone. Thank you for your time. Just a little background on Qlik for those who don't know us. Qlik was founded in 1993 in Lund, Sweden, and is now headquartered in King of Prussia, PA. We have, in addition to our 3,000 healthcare organizations around the globe, we've got 50,000 customers, and I believe it's 80-plus countries worldwide. But globally, we've got 3,000 healthcare organizations around the globe. And that is really comprised of state and local providers and payers, life sciences, and other affiliated organizations with the healthcare industry. And as we look at these dots as this slide builds out, we're really working with national and state agencies, most currently with COVID, but for a variety of analytic applications, whether they're standard analytics, operational reporting, self-service capability, even into predictive analytics for clinical variations in value-based care. And the obligatory NASCAR slide giving, not really sure what happened there. Sorry about that. Looking at Qlik and healthcare across, thank you, our providers, academic medical centers, as I mentioned, payers and health plans, children's healthcare specific organizations like Boston up here in Children's up in Boston, and technology companies where we can embed Qlik into the work streams of your EMR for point of care, right? And we often working with our customers on the quad aim of the IHI for better outcomes, improved patient experience, improved clinician experience, really with the goal to lower costs. As most of you are going through now, you're looking at sort of the new normal with elective surgeries being canceled in the previous year as everyone is looking out, and telehealth has become a predominant way for patients to visit with their primary care providers. You know, how do we look at the finances and replan for the future now that things are really changing and people are embracing telehealth? And John Michael will speak to that prior to the demo when I'm done with the slides. Let's build this out. All right. And from, point of care insights across, as I said, the clinical variation, whether you're looking to do predictive readmissions or supply chain for PPE, respirators, encounters and scheduling. It's become very challenging with the overload of the ED and electives not really being there. We're really working with a variety of customers to look at where they are today, how do they project out and forecast going forward. And as Jeff walks through the demo, we take one slice at sort of patient profitability and costing as an example of one of the ways we're working with our customers to really get a handle on the new normal as we move forward into COVID. We have all of this information I provided today up at healthcare.qlik.com, excuse me, too much coffee, which is available for anyone to go check out, download some of our apps, take a look at them, and see if these things can either fit within your organization or if there may be a better way to combine multiple data sets to provide this information. Oh, there, it's now building out. And with that, I will turn this over to John Michael.
Okay, thanks, Brad. I don't have slides to show, but I'm going to talk about some of the trends that I am finding in conversations with our customers about what they're doing with our technology, especially in today's very tumultuous time of the pandemic, as well as changes in the revenue cycle side, as well as the financial aspects of running a health system. What I'm finding in conversation with many of our customers, as well as some of the bigger payers, is there's been a big shift in the revenue and cost side. So applications are being built around ACOs, bundled payments, Medicare Advantage, managed care. There's significant changes coming in bundled payments. So I had a long conversation on Friday with a health plan that is using our technology to really kind of pull everything together around bundled payments. And we also know, and what I'm finding is ACOs are lowering costs and having higher quality underneath pathways to success. So there's been a series of applications that our customers are building with QlikSense to pull the data together and make sense of that. As well, on the federal side, there's been some changes as well. Obviously, site-neutral payments, moving away from higher rates in hospital outpatient departments, so on and so forth, has been important. So a number of apps, one of my customers is built around that, as well as price transparency is getting very real. So obviously some apps are being built in that aspect too. I have also spoken to some folks that are really trying to track what's just going on relative to COVID, the pandemic, and how they're using our technology to assess that area as well. And what we're seeing and what they're seeing is using our technology to figuring out very quickly, post-COVID-19, reimbursement preferences are going to be dramatically different. From medical to surgical to primary care and behavioral, you're seeing a big change. Less fee-for-service, same level of fee-for-service and more fee-for-service. Those numbers are changing quite a bit, and they're moving towards telehealth or office visits done virtually over the phone of some kind. What I've also seen in an application recently done by one of the largest health systems in the country, they did a survey of their customers in their quest to really kind of drive consumerism, and they're finding out that they're getting really high marks using our application for telehealth visits. And I think 45% of the respondents from this very large health system said that they're extremely satisfied, 33% they're somewhat satisfied, and 19% neither satisfied or dissatisfied. But when I took a lot of the data and I moved it into QlikSense myself, I noticed there was a trend. And again, this is going to be what you're going to see in the demo, but the trend showed using our associative model that men prefer these televisits over women. Goes into more detail and all that. I'm not going to go into it, but it gives you an example of the power of QlikSense, how quickly and in an agile fashion we can look at data trends and really figure out what's going on in a health system in these really important and changing market times. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Jeff Dobson. But before I do, I was remiss to mention that a number of the largest entities out there around analytics in healthcare, such as Health Catalyst and even Cerner and others, they use our technology, they build their solutions, then they go to market with it. And that gives you a little bit of comfort as you're looking at our technology as potentially something you want to bring into your health system. With that, I'll turn it over to Jeff. Thank you.
Hello everyone, Jeff Dodson here, a solution architect with Qlik, and today I'm going to take you through our patient costing application. One of the challenges that people have when using analytics is how do we actually take our findings and report them back to our boss? How do we make these actionable insights? By leveraging ClickSense stories, you can drive your meeting from the data itself. A Qlik story is like Qlik's twist on a PowerPoint, and the advantage is that oftentimes when you're showing your findings, someone will inevitably question something or ask, wait, how did you get that number? That doesn't look right to me. And since we're presenting this from within ClickSense, I can actually right-click and go to source, and we can see this insight within the exact context of the greater application, and with the same filters applied that we may have had. We can look into the details, answer the question and any additional questions, and then get right back into the presentation. This eliminates the back and forth and allows us to take action from our findings by driving our meetings from the data itself and linking directly back to the dashboard. Now we can step through our findings. What we see here is that overall performance in 2020 is looking a little bit rough. COVID has been a huge impact, and profitability has not been good, to say the least. We've identified a couple of problem physicians in particular who work in obstetrics, which was already known to be unpredictable even without a global pandemic going on. We've highlighted also an anomaly here that we noticed related to 20-year-olds, and what we want to do is explore that a little bit further. Here we highlight how we discovered that the largest loss is related to C-sections. And we know that there's an NHS-wide policy to reduce elective C-sections as they're often unnecessary and extremely expensive. Lastly, we highlight the 3 physicians who are doing many more C-sections than other physicians, including the 2 worst performing physicians. By reducing the number of these, we can help our profitability, and this is especially important in these uncertain times. And once again, we link back to the source right here, driving our meetings with data, and we can examine the details and perform further analysis. Now the question becomes, what else can we discover in our data? Qlik helps you see where you think you are making money and where you might not actually be making money. If I look at my selections and my filters here, I can see that highlighted in green are our selections. Then we have highlighted in white the results of our selections. But then everything else is in gray. So in the dark gray, we have unassociated items, and then in light gray, we have hidden or alternate selections, things that we could have selected as alternates to our current selections that we might want to be considering. So when is it important to see this gray? Well, let me tell you a real story about a healthcare customer that we were doing a proof of concept for. They had just gone through a bunch of cost-cutting measures, and they realized that they were using an expensive brand of surgical glue that they could save a ton of money on by replacing using a generic brand that had exactly the same clinical quality. During a proof of concept, as the customer was scrolling through all these surgical items, they clicked on this generic surgical glue, and suddenly, all of the counters went to 0. Every name in the list of surgeons became dark gray. They were unassociated. So what was the problem? Are the associations messed up because the architect built the data model wrong? Nope. In fact, the problem was because the cost-cutting committee had never told the surgical preference card builders to change the surgical glue that was being used. So when surgeries are going to happen, someone prepares the surgical trays with the items that the surgeon prefers to use, right? Probably based off that specific type of surgery. And without those surgical preference cards being changed, the people preparing the trays continued to use that expensive surgical glue. The report writers often aren't asked to build reports showing you what isn't being used. It's always about counts of what is being used. And as you can imagine, with thousands of items being used for so many surgeries and with so many different surgical preferences, those reports never unveiled that the committee forgot to take the final step in the process, action. And that's why we want to highlight the gray. That helps us drive actionable insights. Now let's say that we're months into a project and we want to determine what we are really using our money on. As we move through this dashboard, we can clearly see that we were already patchy with regards to performance as a whole, but that we are especially losing money in 2020. We know that overall this is particularly the case for elective surgeries as a result of them being pushed back to save beds for COVID patients. So the question that I might want to ask is, how else is COVID affecting our numbers? I don't have COVID hotspot information in my EMR, but what I can do is pull this information from the Snowflake data market. It's easy to supplement what you're already doing with Qlik by leveraging data that is available with the data market. And that's exactly what I've done here. So this map was already showing us which states were doing well or not from a profitability and costing perspective, ones doing worse being in red. And I've added in a heat map layer to this to show the COVID hotspots from the data that we got from Snowflake. With this, I might want to ask the question of, are we losing money localized to a specific state or region? So maybe I want to drill into some place like California, where we were already not doing too well from a cost perspective and where there is a COVID hotspot. Now that we've zoomed in on California, I can see our patient locations as dots as well. I might want to dive into the details about specific counties, like Kings County or Kern, for example, where we have a lot of COVID cases and are struggling from a costing perspective. Then, examining our patients, is there a correlation between their relative location compared to the COVID hotspots? Is their distance from our locations affecting them? Maybe we want to add in drive times to look at this. And what about other states and hotspots? Is there any relation to COVID there? The point is, by adding in this extra data set from Snowflake that I didn't have access to previously, I've opened up a whole new world of questions that I can ask and analytics that I can dive into.
Terrific. And as we conclude today's demo, I did want to just ask our presenters for today from Qlik and Snowflake if they have any final thoughts to leave our audience with today.
So this is Todd from Snowflake. I know there was a question that came in around ETL tools, and so I wanted to address that one if I could. So I didn't bring it up. I was trying for brevity and kind of going through things. But one thing to recognize is that from a partner ecosystem perspective, it takes a village. So if I, kind of go back to the cloud data platform, right, when you look at, the consumers, right, using tools like Qlik, very, very valuable partnership there on that side. I talked about data science, right, Python connector, R connector. To be very clear from an ETL perspective, absolutely. We work, we have clients that are putting Epic data, Cerner data, Lawson, right, you name it, data coming into Snowflake, and that takes a village as well, right? So from Informatica to Talon to Matillion, right? So all out on our website has a complete alphabetical listing. We're Switzerland. We love them all, but just want to be clear that there are all of the major ETL tools connect in with Snowflake. The other question was, and kind of in that line, right, is that you think about the ETL tools and getting the data, and then you talk about, getting the data out and using tools like Qlik, is that, some organizations, they have the expertise to implement what you call a technology stack of the combination of an ETL vendor plus Snowflake plus Qlik. And some people absolutely do, but if you're not able to do that, Snowflake and Qlik, we're able to guide you to system integrators that are out there that are experts in our technologies and able to implement these solutions for you. So don't hesitate to reach out to either one of us, either group, and we're happy to assist in that journey. So thank you for that. I don't know if the Qlik team had any other thoughts?
Well, thank you, Todd, John, Michael, and Brad for that fantastic presentation. We will now, that's all the time we have for today, and I want to thank Qlik Tech for sponsoring today's webinar as well. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we look forward to having you join us for future webinars.